Well, knowing that today was the day there'd be a big press conference between Emmanuel Macron and the British Prime Minister, I decided the only thing I could possibly do was to go out into the English Channel, and I took GB News with me and one or two print journalists, and most of those journalists had never seen before what we witnessed today. So what happened was a migrant boat left a beach at Gravelines. When it was not very far off the beach, it was escorted by, that's me catching fish, by the way, those who are watching. There was some waiting around to do. It was escorted by the French Navy. And if you look at the pictures now, you can see a French naval rib. And they're coming back to them because they've lent them 40 life jackets. And as they reached British Border Force, they collected the life jackets back, presumably to use later on today. I say that because I'm not sure what the final tally for today will be, but probably I'm going to guess 7 to 750 across the channel. This boat, it's typical of so many of those boats, 78 people on board, 1 woman, 3 children, and 74 young, undocumented males with no ID, no passports, no mobile phone, no way of tracking or tracing what they are all about. The sheer scale and cost. There's even a boat that they lease at £6,000 a day that comes to pick up the empty dinghies. As to the true total cost of all of this, I don't know. Well, I did this because I thought we'd try and embarrass the Prime Minister on this day as much as we possibly could. At the summit, he spoke about a new deal that he says will stop people crossing the channel. We'll examine that in a moment. But it was the tone of President Macron, I think, that garnered the most interest.
You need to understand that since Brexit, and I'm saying all this quite honestly, I know it's not your case, Prime Minister, but many people in your country explained that Brexit would make it possible to fight more effectively against illegal immigration, but it's in fact since Brexit that UK has no migratory agreement with the EU. In fact, therefore, for candidates for the crossing, those alternative legal admission route, nor a readmission scheme after a crossing, it creates an incentive to make the crossing the precise opposite what the Brexit has promised.
A full rant from the French president against Brexit. Basically, if you voted Brexit, you are thick and stupid. He is a superior human being. But what do you expect? Despite that, Starmer gave in to him on virtually everything. There is to be a new 50,000 strong force, military force, headquartered in, well, you've guessed it, Paris, which I see as a proto-European army. The Prime Minister proudly said that our independent nuclear deterrent would now work in unison with France. Well, that would mean it wouldn't be independent. Many other deals on business. And his breakthrough is that for every migrant that crosses the English Channel, they'll be detained and sent back. And in return, we'll get somebody else who they think really qualifies as a refugee. He called it a pilot scheme, said it would start in a few weeks. No numbers were given whatsoever. Folks, let me tell you something. It won't work. And it won't work because they won't be able to deport anybody, because we're members of the European Convention on Human Rights. The lawyers will have a field day. And even if it did work, how is one in, one out, replaced by another one? How does that help us? All we're doing is helping solve France's problems, not our own. Folks, this is Brexit Britain. We voted to be in control of our own borders, to make our own decisions, not to sign up to a grubby deal with France and the European Union. I don't believe it can work, but I'll ask you at home, do you think Starmer's deal will work? Am I being unkind? Am I being unfair? Tweet #Farage on GB News or email farage@gbnews.com. I'm joined in the studio by Alistair Heath, editor of the Sunday Telegraph, Councillor Sebastian Salek, a former Bloomberg journalist, now a Labour councillor, and Michael Wilson, who I'm going to call a veteran of business and finance broadcasting. Sure, he won't take offence at that.
Not that old enough.
Alistair, you wrote a very strong piece in today's Daily Telegraph, basically saying that both France and Britain are declining steadily together in terms of world importance, in terms of quality of life. Did you see anything in the summit that cheered you up?
Oh, no, nothing at all. In fact, I thought you were being too fair to Starmer, right? Because this deal with Macron has not even been ratified by the EU yet. or by the member states. So they could still block it. They may still say, we can't actually do this. And I think that there's no calculus, there's no possibility that this kind of low-level pilot scheme can change the equation for either a people smuggler or somebody who wants to come here. It just won't work at all. And I found it incredible, really, that a weak Prime Minister like Starmer could invite such an arrogant man like Macron here to have him lecture us on everything, right? He lectured us on Brexit, right? We were wrong to do Brexit. He lectured us about Palestine. We're supposed to recognise the Palestinian state because Macron's telling us to do so. He's lecturing us on immigration, saying it's all our fault. Now, obviously, I think a lot of it is our fault and we could sort it out on our own. We don't need to beg the French like this. But it's all part of this fallacy at the heart of the British establishment, of the Labour Party, of the blob, which is this French envy. They love France, they love the socialism, the Cartesian nature of the whole thing, the bureaucracy. They'd love it if, we could increase taxes in this country to French levels, public spending to French levels. They never see a French tax or French grand projet that they don't want themselves. That's why we've got HS2, And, they regret and they resent and they're horrified that we've left the European Union. I mean, the British establishment, not just the French.
I think they are. I mean, it was interesting, Sebastian, Alistair saying that basically Starmer's a weak man and he effectively has been slightly humiliated today. As a Labour councillor, what's your take?
I mean, as you all know, and as we all know, the small boats crisis is really, really hard to solve. And the way you solve hard problems is by trying things. And that's what we're doing today. It is testing out an idea. And yes, it's small. And yes, this on its own won't solve the crisis. But if it works, you can ramp it up and you can ramp it up. And that is the hope. If we don't do anything, if we tried and tested tactics, it's not going to go anywhere. So it's about being creative and bringing new ideas to the table. And I think that's what we're seeing today.
Well, and I wonder, and Michael, it was interesting, one of the other big announcements was that EDF, the French energy company, will be taking a substantial chunk of Sizewell. He was almost talking about a sort of merging.
Like a trade deal of some description.
Yes.
It's crazy. I mean, I think that... Number one, I feel really sorry for the RNLI and all this. I know that in the past, people have called them a taxi service, but they have to respond in the way that they do. I feel very sorry for them. Secondly, I think the gig economy here is too much of a pull factor. I think that people can lose themselves very easily within the economy here and earn money and just earn cash. So I think those are two things that need to be done. Yeah, sure, EDF. We'll see how that develops.
Yeah.
But that's the bottom line. If you come to the UK and you want to find cash work and it's illegal work, you'll find it.
Well, I even saw last week, I saw a TikTok advert from a trafficker with his mobile phone number on, so much for Smash the Gangs, and saying, as soon as you get to Britain, we'll find you work. So you're in a migrant hotel, but you get a job as a delivery driver or whatever it is. How do we crack down on that?
I don't think you do crack down on it, but I think you have to get politicians to realise we've done with the Smash the Gangs. All that's disappeared now, isn't it? There's no more talk about that. You've got to somehow regulate the gig economy, and if we want cheap deliveries. We won't get those in the future if it's regulated. It's as simple as that. That's what politicians need to understand.
Yeah.
I mean, we could still get them, right? There's millions of people in the UK on benefits who are not working. Those people should work, and we shouldn't need to import cheap, illegal immigration, right? Yeah. So there's a way through. But we are conflating the two problems, aren't we? Because we don't want to tackle the immigration issue. We find it easier to park millions of people on welfare.
Interesting. I mean, you made a comment about the ruling class and French envy, but they are, as a percentage of the population, a tiny number of people.
Yes.
They just happen to run the BBC and they happen to run the civil service, and this current parliament's full of them. But out there, Labour got 10 million votes at the last election. Do you think this small boats thing does them enormous damage?
Yes.
Or people just think, it's like the Tories, they're all the same?
No, I think it does them enormous damage, because they don't control our borders, and we're on Ireland, and we should be able to control our borders, right?
We will have to see an improvement, if I can put it like that, in those figures. It will fail, and it will fail, of course.
Well, but what's happened today isn't going to change anything. I mean, I take your point, Sebastian, that we're trying something, but we keep trying something. We keep hearing initiatives year after year. None of them have worked today, and this is, as Alistair makes the point, may not be ratified by the European Union, isn't going to pass the ECHR test. I mean, this is bad news for Starmer.
I mean, I think part of the reason that it is a pilot is because you have to tread carefully because of our southern European neighbours. You need to get buy-in, and that's just international politics. You have to move with other people. That's a reality.
But we don't as an island, do we? We voted Brexit to take back control of our borders. We don't need a deal with France.
But we're still on planet Earth. There are still other countries, whether we're tied together in a trading or economic bloc or not. You have to work with your neighbours, and that's what we're doing here. The fact of the matter is, these people are coming from France. And this is the first government that we're seeing that is able to have those discussions. Remember when Yvette Cooper said she was going to do this, everybody laughed.
Well,
when the Interior Minister
hang
said,
on.
everybody laughed.
The fact you have a
We've got a deal
conversation,
today.
the fact you have a conversation doesn't mean you're going to win.
Well, we've got a deal. We've got the first step, which no government before has done.
Well, I tell you what, I don't believe it for one single moment. So to finish off this segment, Alistair, with you, is your deepest pessimism about the state of this country, is it economic or social?
It's both, and it's also cultural. I think we are a country in decline. I think we've lost control of the economy. Our economy is no longer working. Our welfare state's totally out of control. We're living beyond our means. We're borrowing, the deficit's far too high. The national debt is growing. And I see striking parallels with France, tragically. I love France. I grew up in France.
Yeah.
But I see both countries now becoming the same. We are copying everything that's bad about France, and France is copying everything that's bad about Britain. We are harmonising, we're converging.
Failure.
Yes, despite Brexit, right? We were meant to diverge. And in fact, we diverged from France in the 80s and 90s, and that's when Britain was booming. And now, unfortunately, we're copying all of their pathologies. So I fear for the future of Britain. I fear for the future of our economy. I think radical change is needed across all the institutions. You know, everything, very little is working. But I look at this state visit and I see two failed politicians, two second-rate politicians who are cosplaying and being world leaders. You know, they're pretending that they can change things. They're talking about this, you know, almost pooling their nuclear. It's all nonsense, right? Let's live in the real world. We need radical change. This can't go on.
Alistair, thank you very much indeed. Now, as you may know, one of the sweeteners that we've been offered by the French president is that the biotapestry may come here. And I saw this rather amusing cartoon earlier on today, which I thought worthy of tweeting out, which I'm hoping is going to appear on your screen any moment now. Because we do need, even after the bleak diagnosis that we've just had from Alistair, we do need some sense of humour. Well, here it goes. So there he is. There's the biotapestry. And as you can see, there is one of them in the boat, throwing overboard his mobile phone. I thought rather a nice sort of bringing together of the migrant crisis and the biotapestry.